You've been very, very patient. Thank you for your patience. Moving into Lotus again, Catface will be starting on defense. Oh, and we see Ice on the ISO. Oh, perfect. I love it. Gompers, this is, but we also, Gompers, we talked about that donut raise, you know, that iconic raise, and we see her on it.
Yeah, it's quite interesting though too, because this team is pretty typical for switching up their Lotus approach. So to see something completely, oh my gosh, am I completely, oh no, it is Lotus, sorry. For some reason my mind was like thinking this was Pearl, and I was like, hold on, let's backtrack really quick. But no, the Lotus approach, they do typically change their composition. So for me, I was expecting something completely different. I am really enjoying the fact that we do get to see Ice on the ISO, just simply because, first of all, names match, haha, lol, and then also, like, I think Ice is the perfect match for ISO just because you have to win those 1v1s and you have to be so dominant, and Ice in that sense is like a no-brainer to me. Probably one of the best duelists, for sure.
One last point that I want to say here, you know, we're not going to have the Tejo anymore, so there's some changes when it comes to the initiators. Pay attention to how that's going to play out, especially because Alexis is not going to be playing the Breach, for example, that we're used to seeing. She's actually going to be playing the Fade instead, and a couple changes here and there that I feel like it's going to rely more on those controllers and those two Vipers that you see on this map.
Well, folks, can Catface bring it to a map 3? Take us to Pearl. I know exactly who to send it to. It is Lemon Kiwi and Vincily on the call.
Well, I'm glad they sent it to us. We're the ones. They picked us. Let's go. And, well, SRG also picked Lotus. Yeah. And there's a lot of changes coming in. And just in general, this is our first time seeing the GC teams on the post-Tejo patch. Yeah, exactly. So to find out kind of how flexible everybody is. But we know SRG is the most flexible team in GC.
Yeah, and maybe not for the side of Catface, though, right? Yeah. So because, yes, we've seen, like, you know, some players trying to implement the Tejo for this team here in GC, but they didn't have the best results going into this one. And also it's a map where you don't necessarily have Icy being able to play the Jet, so they were trying to play the Raze. It wasn't really working out for the team either, so they're coming out with something completely new this time around. For the side of Shopify Rebellion, they're eliminating the Tejo out of the composition as well, so they're going more towards the tried and true. So we're starting to see like a re-roll into previous compositions with Shopify Rebellion playing a little bit more of a Fnatic style with the old school, you know, Fade and Raze, and trying to get the lurks coming through with the double walls. So, or not the double walls, but the Sarah wall and the Mel lurks here with the smoke. So this is something that we kind of already know and expect when we're looking at this composition here for the side of Shopify Rebellion, but it's more on Catface. What can they do then if Icy's coming out as is ISO? Can Sin play as comfortably on a Viper versus other agents that she was trying to do in the past, as like the Tejo or the Sova in previous games?
Yeah, I was definitely expecting the Sova out of Sin, but yeah, falling back to old comps, as you said. And how is this ISO going to look? I always see ISO with Yoru. It's such like a peanut butter and jam combo. So, and not too often we get to see an ISO on Lotus of all things, like literally everything else. Yeah. Like including even Neon.
There's only really like China that's been trying to pull out a little bit of ISO on the map, and not always the best of results. And also some teams and challengers did try to do it in the first leg of last leg of 2024, but also not the best results as yet. But that said, we'll see if Catface can really stop that and show that ISO could be very good here on this map as they're playing on the defensive side first. And this is what we're expecting of this type of composition, though, for SRG. With this comp, you're going to try to default a little bit more slower here with all of this utility, and they're walking back for contact up towards that rubble, get the contact onto Luna Fox, and drop her first.
Big opener, but on the other side, because of that Boombot and the Paranoia, or the Prowler, I should say, Icy could have been able to find a trade, and we'll just be at a standstill, falling back towards the side as SRG try to cut into B, thanks to what Mel was able to do to pave the way towards that objective. And then you have Noya watching from main if it were to be a ceiling door opening. So I like the game plan out of SRG, but it is Catface that have won every pistol so far. How is Lotus gonna look? It is a 4 versus 3, and when it rains and pours, Alexis continues to defend the site, and it's just Animal putting shots down. A lot of people low from the SRG side, but even the isolation against Alexis is tough with sort of the head glitch she was on the low ground. So SRG take the pistol.
And that's something that Catface has to start to expect as well from like the slow lurk play and then slow tempo being engaged here by Shopify Rebellion Gold. You're seeing that with this insert that they have in a pistol rounds on the top of B site, that they have so many avenues to still work with for Shopify Rebellion Gold. Even if you commit towards tree and win those fights, those 2 players towards B are going to become flankers. Or if you're being pressured and you're forced to rotate towards A and nobody really fought back or rotated over from B, you could go back through breakable door and finish the way that you did to win this pistol round. So Catface not only has to try to get used to the new composition that they're pulling out within this game, but they also have to be familiar of, again, this old type of composition that comes out from SRG on Lotus.
And Sarah's selling quite a fake here with the Viper wall. Just Catface sitting on stairs. They have 4 stacked on that side of the map. Are just not going to know the progression that Sarah, and the fact that it's just Sarah. And the rest of SRG are just defaulting to see what sort of first blood without overly committing to that side. Beautiful shot from Icy. And now SRG can try to follow that up by just shooting through the smoke. They have better ranged weapons to do this, but Catface have chemistry. They're all stacked. They're grouped up and they're walking down, using haunts, using flashes from their sentinel. But SRG have realized they have a great read on this. The whole left side of the map is open.
Exactly. And that's a big thing. Yes, losing Sarah is a pain point, but she gets all the information of the stronghold from Catface all the way towards this A side. So it's an open, easy plant. You still have satchels, paranoias on the pulse plant to reflood back into a smoke that can be thrown into the entrance of the C site when Slicey moves forward with the rest of MEOW into the spawn to flood back into the C site.
Now smokes in place.
Take hold.
Catface on the approach. Only have really Animal Util and also Luna Fox who can take time to just prowler in. Catface now, they flood, and it's Icy, just the one taps are so nasty, and SRG just out of sight and hosing down Catface as they stagger in. Beautiful anti-eco out of SRG.
Yeah, we took a little bit too long here to really force the hand out of Shopify Rebellion Gold, so everything that they were holding at the very end, we mentioned that satchel, the paranoia, the nanoswarm on top of that. So, and that Alexis playing solo on site just never got challenged. So she was still able to hold on to a seize, hold on to a haunt, and Catface just couldn't really hurt the economy of Shopify Rebellion into their eco. But the economy at least is still good enough into the gun round, already pulling out an Odin. But funny enough, it's being held by Slicey as the Omen, holding towards this A side. So when you're thinking about this, and these sprays, where are the smokes here towards the one-ways on that C site? Where are the smokes to block off a potential area to really allow Catface to get into better positions on defense? It's not there. So now that's SRG able to surprise some players and almost got that pick onto Sin.
The Catface are having a difficult time. They only have 3 kills over these 2 rounds. SRG are really dominating, but this first rifle round could be a big tide turner as Catface the 1-2-1, and I like that Icy, you know, they've been able to depend on them to make those solo plays, kind of explore around the map while the rest of Catface hold the line at B. The C's not going to connect. Throwing a nade to get them off the front door, and SRG are just not getting the space they were hoping.
It's a great shutdown in the very beginning. But that window of opportunity to try to pick off Sin at the very beginning for Shopify Rebellion Gold was probably the best opportunity for them to really convert their bonus round, because the rest of the players around Shopify didn't have the best of buys here in the rest of the bonus. So a flawless would be even better here for Catface to just really fight back on the defense.
Yeah, and Catface had set up a nice high-low too on C once they had the delay from the Vice Thorns from the Animal that came out. So being able to just go toe-to-toe and catch up to SRG, and when you're able to kind of shave down those numbers, it makes your job a lot easier. SRG was going to be tough to just find that window where the Viper wall was down on B and try to get vision in, and it was a beautiful job from Sin to hold things down. So SRG will have the Nightfall to work with, and just kind of how aggressively do they want to use it. They're already posted up to try and have a fight in bubble.
It's not going to do too much here on the side of Catface. I mean, they're still conditioning. Yes, the Odin's always on this A side, especially in the very beginning, trying to catch the players off guard, but Shot for Rebellion, you could see it from the very beginning. They're always working mainly towards the front B side to go for these picks. And there hasn't really been like too many early fights or aggression back to fight to trap that area. At least they got Noya down, but they lost Sin in the process, and you're playing a 3-sided map. So you still have an opportunity and an advantage if you're on the side here of the attack, because you can still manipulate this map. Look at this lurk moving up from Mel on this A side. You're forcing to just find info, and oh, well, at least we got some good picks coming out from Catface, though.
SRG know that Catface are just all lined up right at the front doors, so not the most advantageous thing to try and swing through. And because Catface have a lot of numbers at B, they can easily rotate to C or A depending on where the hit ends up being. It's a Nightfall that hits no one because Slicey ended up kind of trying to go towards C and help support that. So SRG feel confident getting into the site, but this bomb from Slicey is big. And because the smoke dissipates, Slicey cannot escape. Good response from Sarah. 2 versus 2 on the post plan, and Animal and Icy still have to drop down together. Animal has the flash, but can't really set it up. They are going to try and pinch from both sides. I like that a lot. He's able to run away, and maybe it sets up the other for success. Annie goes down at least with 1. Sarah versus Icy, and it's Sarah with the last laugh.
A big round out from Sarah towards the end, just because the shots were good. If anything, both players on that 2 versus all 4 players in the server on a 2 versus 2 played it quite well. Because Icy's getting punished, getting pressured, being flashed by Mel. They pull back, and it allows the forward lurk to move forward to get the traits towards that 2 versus 2 right there from Animal. Almost lined up on those 2 kills. But great reactions coming out from Sarah to save that round there for Shot for Rebellion Gold. Because if not, that was a bit of a round for both of the teams. Whoever lost that round potentially would have gone into that eco. So you have a chance now for Shot for Rebellion to continue a stronghold and a strong streak on their attack side.
Alexis flying at Odin, saying, I'm very done with your Odin, mine's better, but...
But got dinged through a wall by a sheriff.
Yeah, not fun. Just, you know, making space. Space making Odin, but do they know Catface are just that close with... Now that Fade Util being thrown, SRG gotta be on watch. Prowler reveals someone close, and Slicey just stood there and took it, and there's just not gonna be any backup for Lunafies because she's 13 HP. Now, at least Animal is able to mark that SRG are still in spawn and holding her ground at mound, and SRG are having limited options, but this win against Lunafox, finding her means A is looking weaker, so SRG can start bringing the spike that direction.
Yeah, and they already have info. Turret spotting 1 on the front B. Noy already had the initial engagement against Animal Force C, so they know they're playing maximum of 3 versus 1 on A site, and even gets hit by a Paranoia. This should be an easy plant coming out from SRG. An even better stronghold towards the end, because look, the Larbot's watching that flank. We're already in picture. Farming.
I love that they keep Noya this far back because that was sort of a slip up that SRG didn't watch Baby Door or didn't watch the staircase, and that's that kind of cutoff, which is okay because then you can pinch from both sides, but SRG keep their numbers up 4-1 with 4 left in the round.
Yeah. You're starting to see at least though from Catface that there has been a little bit more pressure towards Mill, but it hasn't been with rifles or whatnot. It's on an eco that they're adding a little bit more pressure, but they're starting to see with, you know, at least a crossfire set up on that eco that SRG are playing quite passively at the beginning of these rounds. So they probably have an opportunity to really even get Slicey up quite early with a TP on the top of rubble, even if there's early shots happening on that side. But SRG hasn't been like activating or pushing quickly in that spot. And as they do it, the Haunt doesn't spot anybody there, yet we're staying back, so we're not really covering that full space on that A side. We're actually doing it towards the C side instead with Icy walking forward. But now with a minute left, everybody stays towards that spawn. Everybody's falling back here for Catface. You've given up all that real estate that you should have had at the very beginning of the round. And now SRG has that 1 minute mark to really activate around the map. Your lurk's going to be now Sarah when you're going to start rotating some players and adding pressure here from the front of that B site and C mound.
Yeah, so you have to expend util just to figure out what are the numbers are on B, but Dodo gets kind of stuck, just couldn't leave, and maybe the Thorns came, I don't know.
It's the wall. She was supposed to 180 jump out, and it still pushed her forward inside the site.
Oh, that sucks. SRG have really had a tough time getting into B, so Now the smokes are all gone. Mel is trying to get something done. The smokes come back up, so she's going to teleport out. And there's not insane amounts of pressure towards A lobby or Rubble, so SRG are just going to progress through there,
30
I guess.
seconds left.
We still have a chance, though, for Shopify. Now adding this pressure towards that Rubble, trying to play contact. This lurk down coming in towards that B side from Noya. If she gets a pick, that's going to be a lockdown for post plant.
Okay, Nightfall from Luna Fox, I believe, or yeah, Noya.
10 seconds
Work
left.
11
seconds.
seconds though. Yeah, Catface prevents the plans at the spike through the kill contract.
It's
Takes
over.
The spike carrier.
Player
So
standing.
funny.
Oh my. Even if Mel wins that fight, that's a consolation prize, but you kind of needed Alexis to stay alive. You saw the idea was there. She was trying to stay out in the open so that if the ult came through, it was going to take Alexis and not Mel while she's planning. But that timing to sacrifice a selfless play from the back of the A side to get that pick like that, the wall just pushes around. So they stack the Viper wall on top of the Vice wall, maybe to create that sort of like ruckus and diversion to not give a chance here for Donut to have the cleanest 180s of jumps through. But I gotta say, I think it was Sin that pushed all the way back towards that A site to sacrifice herself so that they get value out of that ult of the kill contract to win the round for Catface. That was a labored win, but they'll take it.
Vice is gonna, or the Animal is gonna disengage to Waterfall. They have a Steel Garden. She's got a teammate, buddy system. They could even hit, but I think they should probably wait for numbers because Yellow's going to defend herself in that pit. And SRG gonna get out of dodge after that Steel Garden is popped. You got the lockdown offensively. SRG wants that real estate back. Good vulnerable from Icy, but too many cooks in the kitchen. Catface came back against SRG. Prowler reveals Animal. And SRG are just have such good reads on the setups of Catface. But Slicey is deadly, and the numbers are not too shabby.
Yeah, not too sure that what happened to those players inside the C site when lockdown was already ready and prepped up from the previous round from Noya. Two of them getting detained and getting that information and getting that pick from Slicey was pushing with the Odin. You know the B site's open, and now with the pit, it's going to be so hard to retake the site.
Let's use your own pit, but Luna Fox are on the hunt, and Sin and Luna fall, and Alexis and Sarah survive in the pit. So that was a fun little chess match between a ton of ults being invested.
Yeah. And again, I feel like potentially maybe both of them being detained was because they just want to sacrifice themselves to throw out a lot of util as much as they could so that Slicey could get a dominating, Odin flank coming through. But you just mentioned it. That Prowler from Alexis spotted that player being detained on the top of the boxes. That's them getting picked off and not giving a chance here for even a crossfire to set up after and enough delay here for the Odin to get good value from the front of that B site. So seeing how it hurts the economy. MEOW now on an eco. Another stack towards this A site, and it's basically what happened 5 rounds ago. Let's just wait things out, and then as soon as that minute mark happens, players are going to start pushing forward, especially now with the Prowler spawning one aggressively pushing towards B main. Now you're thinking for the side of Shop for Rebellion to stack or towards the A site or towards C. So what can you do with that? How do you activate forward? You need to try to use more util to try to find if there's going to be the stack towards A or C.
This is Viper's wall has always been up too, so SRG have a hard time getting vision on B, and now there's a Vice wall to have to worry about. So SRG, now that sightlines are open, check the small door. There's always someone at staircase. You've heard Odins in trees before, but just the fact that they see a player there, SRG grab the orb, the reaction from Catface there, but not the united approach from Catface. It's staggered in, and SRG just fire back in the best of ways.
Yep, and that's really nice towards the end for SRG. Once you've made it past towards Rubble, you still don't know where the stacks are coming from. Let's just try to bait it out. So they hit the orb, it forces out the flash and for the flood down from Catface, and they still had 2 players inserted on the top of the B site. So they could or finish towards the A site if they kill everybody like they did, or they could just pivot towards breakable door and move out back towards the B site if they cut the rotates on that B side. So many avenues to still work through when you thought here on paper or on first look that it was perfect positioning from Catface from the get-go, and that SRG was going to walk into a trap. But they already had that covered. They knew how to play that entire eco, and they played it quite cleanly.
And Slicey set up at Rubble, but SRG are pretty committed towards C. They'll have, of course, MEOW watch the flank. Nightfall is going to hit those players from Catface, so they are just going to try and stay in cover and just shoot through the smoke to keep SRG delayed. But SRG kicked down the door, and it will cost them. But they did evict those defenders. Now Catface at least have Luna Fox here, one away from the Nightfall, but still having a Prowler and a Haunt is pretty huge. So
And a Lurk.
Yeah, Slicey. Oh, but this backstab from Noya is just going to hang out here in a second. It's all up to Luna Fox, who has to react to now the waterfall presence. Hey, gets a free headshot onto Donut, and Alexis is low. Very doable for Luna Fox in this 1v2, but time is not on her side, and Alexis knows it. She's going to stay hidden. The turret's going to ping Luna Fox crossing, and Alexis dispatches.
Love the TP out from Mel too. So with the Nightfall from Alexis, it deafens both players inside the site. Mel gets the TP. Yes, there was a rotate across from Icy with the immediate trade, but it wasn't quick enough. And Mel was able to drop one. And dropping that single player just gave such a good timing for the rest of SRG to flip through, activate that lurk that we just saw there from Noya. And unfortunately, once again, breaks the economy on the side of Catface. So all these plays trying to just stall these holds or stall the pushes from Shotfire Rebellion towards the C site has been fully annihilated and taken over on the side of the attack instead. Now with this eco that they have, yes, there's a different type of pressure. It's back towards this B site and C mound. Slicey is looking in a position probably just continuously smoke here towards this A site. So she's just trying to leverage as much as she could. One ways here and there. Just trying to leverage the Sheriffs to get some good value here in this eco.
Wondering if Sin is going to want to kind of early round pitch. He's now had this, so still trying to suss out SRG and really listen to where SRG are going, which Rubble kind of been open for SRG. So they'll progress through there. They keep their eyes on stairs and breakable door. That's where Catface have liked to sit before. And the Vice will set up within tree, letting Sir Animal can focus just right through main, and Donut has the opener, and that's the solo defender, so Catface is going to be on their way. They're smoked off. They try to Prowler through, doesn't go deep enough, so Donut gets a heads up. Now SRG can just even fake and go towards BL thanks to what Noya was able to scout.
Yeah, B, C, wherever the hell they want. They've already had two players working in that spot. They even have map control to even prevent the pushes up from spawn. Should be easy here for SRG no matter what. But yeah, I do respect here if Sin wanted to pick towards that very beginning, but that still gives too many avenues for SRG to work with on the extremities when you're on the lower line. But they should use it within the next gun round here for Catface, because you're about to trail behind by 6. There's only 2 rounds left to work with on your defensive side. You need to get some immediate value out of your ults in this gun round, because if not, the economy is going to be broken again and you won't get the best value out of the Nightfall, out of the ISO ult. So yeah, that's why. Pivotal timeout. I think this should be a standard, ult the Viper ult towards the C site, and maybe try to leverage more players with you to help out on the C site hold, because Shotfire Rebellion Gold have been doing a pretty decent job just disrespecting any type of util at the very forefront that's being placed on the defense side by Catface.
And SRG aren't getting hindered by Vice Walls anymore. They're sort of figuring out it's been around B. They haven't seen the sort of A setup that the Vice has had. So now Dodonet, I feel like, can walk even more freely. Of course, there's still the Viper Walls that are limiting SRG in some ways, but then you got a showstopper, so you could just be super loud, bounce into the site, and see what happens. I think sometimes there's been some Vice Thorns around the C main that SRG have been trying to scout, but ton of ults from the Catface side. This feels like a must-win, just in terms of you don't want the gap of the score, like you said, to get too crazy. And it was an 8-4 half on our last map, so we'll see if we'll get a deja vu of that again, but all depends on this one.
Pit looks like it might be utilized towards this B site instead. But the difficult thing here for Sin is that she's potentially going to try to run this solo. Oh, it's back towards A. Okay, so you're going to try to leverage that with Luna Fox.
especially with the Nightfall too. A lot of ult stack on the right side for Catface. Prowler from SRG gets shot down, and Icy sussed out. And what a good read. The Boombot and the Prowler from SRG reveals that duelist, so Donut, no duelist stands in her way anymore. And this is a good shutdown. No, Slicey couldn't surprise Donut. Does get her pretty injured, 27 HP. So Donut's gonna need a lot more support. Vice Wall and Thorns revealed at B. So you're gonna try and wait this out, but actually Noya's cut off, and because the Viper Wall comes out, MEOW don't get good vision, or Catface don't get good vision. As soon as this drops, SRG could execute, but I like this angle from Animal, trying to at least get a one and done, and just swings a good time. Does get the one, but it's still SRG that trample through everything.
Yeah. Even from the X's, though, I want to respect Icy pushing forward and trying to surprise some players with the fight and control towards C main. But even if Icy gets figured out, there's no opportunity there for Slicey to throw a Paranoia to help them out, because that would actually hit them. They're also playing an ISO. They can't rotate away, so you're just, once again, trying to count on their hero play of getting one or two before you drop. But again, you're playing against double, triple, maybe even util that can really spot you with information. Alarm bot, boom bot, prowlers. What do you do here? I mean, look at the last round that they have. Yes, they still have to work with, but their guns are not good.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind to see Icy play a Neon instead. They kind of play it solo. They have the advantage of the speed and the ult that they can make those flashy plays with, but not really working out with this agent. And now Animal has to close out the half on the longest blink of all time. And this will mean SRG gets to double digits into the second half, which feels pretty over. Now Nightfall towards the back of the site, and that's going to be Donut exploring there. So there's an element of surprise. Animal would be still guarding the 1v1, and Mel pops her before the ult pops.
And to keep that going into the half, I mean, you can't even keep it. Nightfall was still available towards the end. It was still available. Again, they had to use in that round number 11. Try something at least, but you're just starting to see here what we were just mentioning before and what they were mentioning at the desk, where you don't have the opportunity to play comfort picks on the side here of Catface. There's no more Jet moving forward. You can't play a Sova. You can't even play the Clove here on Sin either. So you're just trying to mix and match different things that maybe could work out, because you still have pretty decent stalls from Sin, Animal, and Slicey with the amount of smokes and Vice util. But it was just lacking those forward positions from Rubble Control to really add more stacks on the other side.
Not ready yet.
At least from like one of the pages they could have maybe leveraged with this type of composition. And now getting dismantled, picked apart, not really having an answer yet here, and not figuring out the defensive side, but thankfully at least on the attack, they could leverage with their aim to fight against SRG here.
Yeah, there's a lot of good talent on Catface. Now it's just kind of building up these agent pools so you can be more flexible and be more confident to go for those plays, like the pick that you mentioned. So I think Catface are super solid on pistols, though, and now kind of what we said before, a lot rides on Lunafox as a solo initiator of what she's able to open up with, and as the most flexible initiator too, and as I corrupt, she's fallen to a nade. Oh, the timing of SRG, they're so lucky, they're so good. This is Animal in a 1 versus 3. She's coming up through Rubble, Mel first, and yeah, this is going to be over quite soon, especially not winning that pistol is kind of the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, it's basically the opposite story from that first map of Ascent when SRG was kind of really struggling towards their pistol round and anti-ecos, but you're starting to see that on their map pick against a team that probably isn't as practiced on a map like Lotus, as Lotus rather. It's much easier for you to take control of the map and control of the series now at this point. The fact here that they, once again, throw util before even swinging out behind a util, even caught some players on the side of Catface. It's just easy mode for them right now.
And it's cool to see that SRG haven't missed a beat. They've had some roadblocks, they've had some just bumps on their way here, but this is only to make them a better team. And it's Sarah with first blood, with the stinger at the front door, SRG, or Catface. Out to see if they could even try to trade that. They look for vision now that the wall is down, but there's a crossfire from SRG from all angles. And Sin, though, she's always good for her one. And SRG now smoked off. Let's see how close they are with the boom bot as Noi opens up the door. And MEOW, or Catface, they just get caught by that.
Yeah. Went from a MEOW to a Screech, but thankfully Sin is able to do some damage with the Sheriff, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. At this point, even if you've done some econ damage, you're now at 2 to 12 on the scoreline for SRG. 1 ult cycles in on that round number 5.5 or round number 7. It could already be GG right there. So you're just hoping here that the silver lining is Sin could come in here and maybe win this fight, get a plat
30
down.
seconds left.
But at 10 HP against the president.
Toxin screen down.
Both missed, but hey, Noya's injured. Oh, Noya just catching the cross from Sin. We are match point, series point for SRG. One step away from getting to the semi-finals of Game Changers, the first series of the year. And like I said, they have been through the gauntlet. They have been training to get back into challengers. They're fighting through relegation.
Yeah.
They're suffering, some losses here and there, which can be mentally challenging for any team. And the fact that SRG are still looking this good this early tells me this is just the start to their story for 2025.
And that's the positive of continuously playing towards these gauntlet plays and playing challengers. Even if you're getting relegated or whatnot, it's still such good practice when you go into these types of tournaments as well for Game Changers. You're just continuing your reign of being the champs in North America, the champs in the world, looking for a three-peat on top of that with this new roster with Donut joining the team. Speaking of Donut, she just got dropped here with more GC share shots out from Slicey this time around. There's a chance. I mean, this is hard. I was going to say this was a 4-on-3.
Ooh.
Now Noya just has to stay alive, try to prevent the push from happening into Waterfall in his pulse plant to give a chance for the last two to rotate over and play a 3v3 retake.
And Noya has to disappear after that paranoia. A Prowler from SRG just to clear if a Catface had extended out. But Icy's the one that goes for crazy shenanigans like that, and they won't be around for now. SRG ready to converge. Coalesce 1-2. Sarah the sniper, and Animal's on the run, but she's only prey. SRG take the map in the series, and semifinal is the destination.
Oh, a little bit easier on the second half now for Shopify Rebellion, but Shopify Rebellion Gold continue to be the rebels that is hard to deal against. Yes, it was a bit of a fight coming out here from that first map from Catface. There is still some hope to see how they're going to play here into the lower brackets. There's still some really good competition. I mean, Elizabeth mentioned it before here at the desk that this is probably the most stacked North American GC that we're currently witnessing here on that first split of 2025, especially when you're looking at other teams like Wadada that's playing such different comps, and they're the ones that are playing comfort picks to the max.